Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to Basketball Conference, the ACC Football Podcast. My name's Joey Weaver. He's Mike McDaniel. Mike, Week 9 is upon us. How you doing? You ready to talk about some games?
Week 9 is here, and it's an 8-game slate, and we got some good ones. We also have, for the second week in a row, some huge spreads.
Yep. I took some ganders at this afternoon as I was looking at these, and we're just gonna come up with some locks on the fly, I think, because there's not a lot that's sticking out to me that I really like and really feel good about here. I think some pretty good numbers and some really interesting matchups. So we will get into these. We are live, youtube.com/@the-ACC Football Podcast. Hit that subscribe button. We really appreciate your help with that. It is about a couple minutes after 11 o'clock on the East Coast on Wednesday night, October the 23rd. We are less than 24 hours from games kicking off here on Thursday. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. But if you are with us, welcome. Welcome to the folks in the chat. Good to have you with us. Appreciate you joining us and joining in the discussion. Once again, hit that subscribe button. We would really appreciate that. We are aiming for 500 subscribers. We'd previously said we were aiming for 500 this season, but producer Scott has challenged us, thinking we could probably get there by the end of October. We are currently at 484 subscribers. You guys have been absolutely killing it, giving us help getting there. We are really close. We need 16 more in the next 7 days. So help us out. We'd really appreciate that. Hit the bell icon if you want to find out when we're going to go live next time. Come join us in the chat. We'd appreciate that as well.
Yep, hit the like button, subscribe. This is one of 3 shows before November. So what, we said that was 16. Quick math says that's roughly 5-ish, 5 and a smidge, 5 and a third per show.
That's right.
A third of a person. And I won't get into historical counting people as less than a person.
God.
But you can do it.
Hot start.
All right. Good stuff.
That's why you leave me on mute.
Jesus.
That's what the new fancy mute button is for. Yeah.
Man.
So if you could be one of the 5 for tonight's show, that would be great. We'd appreciate that. Mike, anything else before we get into a Rhoback Lookback?
Andrew Lilly, that was a top tier joke to start things. Yes, Andrew.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Really setting the tone here. Setting the tone.
For nothing.
Don't press in.
Setting the tone. We're off to a hot start. This is going to be don't press it. Accurate. It's going to be a good one tonight, I think.
That's right.
Rhoback Lookback time.
Let's jump immediately into a sponsored segment here with the Rhoback Lookback at Week 8. Go to Rhoback.com. Use promo code GOACC20 for 20% off your first order. All sorts of wonderful polos and activewear. Great things. They got the game day collection there. I wore some to work today. I wore some to church this weekend. You can wear it on the golf course, on the tennis court. Not the tennis course. I mean, if there's one of those, you could do that too. Pickleball, I'm sure. Wherever you want to wear activewear, Rhoback.com. Use promo code GOACC20. Go do that. You'll love yours. We love ours.
Yeah. Yep. Very comfortable. Can't recommend them enough. Shout out to them for a sponsorship.
Absolutely. Mike, I don't have a ton, specifically looking back at Week 8, but we did have a few instances of significant player news that has come out basically since we did our recap show Saturday night. I thought we'd hit on that.
Yeah, we should definitely do that. At least 2 of them are significant.
Yes, yeah, very much so. Let's start with I think the first news. We'll just kind of go in the order that we heard about them. I think this came out either Monday or Tuesday this week. SMU's RJ Maryland, tight end for the Mustangs. He's their leading receiver in both receptions and yards, and it's not particularly close. He officially out for the year. I believe a knee injury. He is going to be sidelined. SMU's offense has been very good, and we know Kevin Jennings. This damn cough. Kevin Jennings, I mean, I think has improved or has kind of found his groove as a passer the last couple weeks. I wonder how that is affected if you take his top target off the board here, Mike.
Yeah, it makes you wonder. we'll get into the game against Duke this weekend. SMU is laying 11.5 on the road, and they do not have their leading receiver. And what is this passing offense going to look like their first time out without R.J. Maryland? Coming into the year, it was pretty apparent when Billy Embody was on the show that R.J. Maryland was really, really important piece of this offense. And it's played out that way. He has 7 more catches than anybody else on the team. He's got 100 more yards than anybody else on the team. He's got more touchdowns in receiving, more receiving touchdowns. Wow, stroke, than anybody else on the team. They spread out the ball quite a bit to a bunch of different receivers, but R.J. Maryland is by far their biggest target and best player in the passing game, and now you're not going to have him. So I feel like that's pretty significant.
Yeah, it's significant, and that's a big time talent. That's a guy that's going to be playing on Sundays next year. Presumably next year. I mean, maybe with this injury, maybe he comes back and plays again next year. It's at SMU, but I mean, certainly a Sunday level tight end there for SMU. And so I guess, the thing I wonder about is, I mean, if that's very much kind of the safety blanket for Kevin Jennings, like where do you go from there? And I think about you look at the Georgia offense this year without Ladd McConkey, without Brock Bowers, things, Carson Beck gets used to throwing it to a certain set of guys, and all of a sudden they're not there, and kind of it's dangerous to compare SMU to Georgia. I get that, but that's a little bit of where my mind goes. Is your favorite target is now gone? Where do you look first if you're under pressure? How do you make sure you keep the ball moving down the field? So definitely something to keep an eye on if he's not going to be there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Next piece of news we got, and really both of these were within hours this afternoon. But we found out, Scott, you sent a tweet from Chris Vanini of The Athletic. NC State quarterback Grayson McCall.
Yeah, only a couple hours ago, right?
Yeah.
PM tonight?
Yeah, I mean, it was this evening, basically. Yep. This is almost more or less breaking news for the sake of on-demand audio. Grayson McCall has announced his retirement from football due to concussion issues. He said, "Brain specialist, my family and I have come to the conclusion it is in my best interest to hang the cleats up." And that's a huge bummer. You hate to hear that. And again, for NC State, I mean, if nothing else, they've been playing CJ Bailey. You kind of figured they might stay there. If nothing else, it kind of clears out some depth out of that quarterback room. So if something were to happen, now you're immediately to the third stringer. This is a huge bummer, though, for a guy who had a pretty good career at Coastal Carolina, kind of made a name for himself really as a freshman back in 2020 in the COVID season when Coastal Carolina had a really big year there. And as we saw, I mean, he had a really nasty hit that he took there. I forget who that was, 2 or 3 weeks ago. And I mean, huge bummer. And now really reduces the margin for error with injuries in that NC State quarterback room.
Everybody making the preseason LinkedIn jokes about Grayson McCall got their wish. Unfortunately, we didn't want it to go down quite like this with his concussion ending his career. That is a bummer. Like you said, McCall did have a really good career at Coastal Carolina, was basically the leader of that Jamie Chadwell offense that had that wild ascent during the COVID year and obviously was kind of burst onto the scene as a young quarterback and was a really good player for them. For a nationally ranked Coastal team, that was a lot of fun that everybody really enjoyed watching out of the group of 5 that year. Didn't necessarily work out at NC State. I think we all expected it to go a bit better than this. Career-ending injury aside, I just mean in general when he was playing, we all expected the offense to look a bit better with him at quarterback. I'm not too terribly surprised that he struggled a little bit, but this experiment bringing in a veteran quarterback from a G5 league did not work out the way that Dave Doran was hoping for, obviously. And NC State's quarterback shuffle in general over the last few seasons has gotten them into some trouble offensively. And I think they've wasted some pretty talented defenses. This year's defense isn't quite as good, but it's been rounding into form and playing a bit better over the last month. And offensively, they're still trying to find their stride with CJ Bailey and obviously take some time with the freshman quarterback. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see where NC State goes from here. At the very least, you're in a position now where you know who the starter is going to be moving forward, and there's kind of no question about that, but it's a bummer that it had to be like this.
Yep, absolutely. Not the way you want that to go. Certainly not the how that you were expecting. Last one, Mike. We found out also this evening, Louisville wide receiver Colin Lacey is going to be opting out for the remainder of the season.
I hate this.
Look, there's some of this that I understand. This particular case, though, like this really kind of rubs me the wrong way. Like, this is a guy who has been playing college football. His freshman year was in 2020. So this is year 5 now. He started at South Alabama. He transferred into Louisville less than a year ago. So he basically comes into Louisville, goes through spring camp, goes through fall camp, plays in 4 games, and now he's opting out. Like, for what? And this is a guy who's going to be 23 at the start of bowl season, basically. Like, I don't get this. I don't like this. This is your 3rd leading receiver, a guy who's a big kick returner. I believe it was him that ran back a kickoff for a touchdown against Miami this past weekend. I don't get this at all. And this is one of those things in the new era of college football that you kind of understand it from a player agency standpoint. That doesn't mean I have to like it. It doesn't mean it's good for the sport.
Yep. Hate everything about it. There was a whole rash of these about a month ago when everybody was kind of approaching that 4th game. This all just goes to the whole tampering thing that we talk about, where players kind of have a general idea of what their options are going to be at the end of the year. It sucks that they kind of know that in September, or in Colin Lacey's case, late October, because he's been banged up. But, he made that decision, and we don't have to like it. And this is the part of the state of affairs in college football right now that I really, really hate, and that something needs to be done about. That's my take.
Yeah. And been banged up. He missed 3 games so far. If the idea is so that he can come back and play for Louisville again next year, I would like to think that was a decision made with the coaching staff and such. And the idea is that he's going to have a decent shot to go play on Sundays. But if this is just, trying to transfer up and go somewhere else, I mean, if you're a wide receiver and you're transferring into Louisville to go play for Jeff Brom in that offense, isn't the idea that offense is going to be able to make you look good as a receiver and give you a shot to play on Sunday? Like, how many programs are going to give you a better shot to shine and to look good and to set up your NFL draft stock? Like, I don't know. So I guess that's the hope. And none of us are in that room. We don't really know what the story is there, truthfully. But like, that would be my only hope, and the only way that it would kind of make sense to me, if it's like, let's get a whole season healthy. Maybe there's kind of a lingering, nagging injury that he's been playing through. If he's going to be back at Louisville in 2025, I understand, and that makes more sense to me. But almost any other outcome here, and I'm like, I hate this, and it's really frustrating.
Yeah. Yep. I am with you. So lockstep.
Yep. Absolutely. Anything else looking back at week 8? And I mean, I thought about this, Mike, and I mean, when you do an hour and 40-minute recap, like, you kind of cover as many bases as you possibly can. So I don't know if there's anything else that we, any stones that we didn't turn over yet.
No, I think we just about covered it on Saturday night. I don't have a ton to add.
Sounds good. Scott, anything you want to win?
I'm going to save it for the Miami preview.
Okay. Sounds good. Once again, that was the Rhoback look back at week 8. Use promo code GOACC20 for 20% off your first order at rhoback.com. Mike, last thing on week 8 before we move on to week 9, let's take a look at our locks from last week. You were 2-1. You had Virginia Tech minus a 7.5. That cashed pretty easily. Florida State Duke under 42.5. Also cashed pretty easily. You missed on Clemson minus a 21.5, as did I. Which, shout out to Tony Muskett, throwing long touchdown passes with, under 2 minutes left in a blowout. Mm-hmm. I also had Cal minus 10, which was going really well through 3 quarters, and then there was a 4th quarter collapse. So, love that.
You can try it again this week.
Yeah, I was going to say, you got another Cal minus 10 out there if you want it. The thing about our locks this year is that I feel like an alarming number of our losses have been just astonishingly horrible beats, especially in the last few weeks. We've had some really, really bad ones.
Yep. Yeah, we had the right idea, and then teams just like stop playing in the fourth quarter, or just find ways to barely not cover. So,
Yep.
love that. I am now 9-7 on the year, but Mike, you take the lead. You're at 11-7 on locks this year. So you had 3 last week. I only had 2. So the volume thing is helping you to some certain degree.
Always does.
In any case, let's look at week 9. We got 8 games this week. 7 of them are conference games. We've got Clemson and NC State on a bye.
Clemson, the ATM, short of last week. Clemson's been an ATM for us, and they're not playing this weekend, so we got to hit the well elsewhere.
Got to find something else here. We do have a couple weeknight games. Let's start there before we get into obvious headliner game of the weekend that we'll talk about shortly after that. Let's start Thursday night, October the 24th, 7:30 on ESPN. The Syracuse Orange on the road taking on the number 19 Pittsburgh Panthers. Pitt, a 6-point home favorite, total 62.5. We had a comment up here from Talk is Pitt. Says Pitt beats Cuse, the streak of them not beating Pitt in Pittsburgh since 2001 will continue. That is a stat that I was definitely aware of before Pitt. Talk is Pitt made this comment, but just as a nice reminder, I appreciate that. Mike, does Syracuse break this streak?
I don't think
had no
so.
idea about that streak, by the way.
I know that. I'm well aware of that. Yeah. Obviously, there was a period of time where they didn't play. Pitt is a 6-point favorite here, right? Weeknight game at home. The thing I really like about Pittsburgh here, the one thing I'm really sure of, is that I think Pittsburgh's going to be able to run the ball. That's the one thing I'm absolutely sure of. There's a lot of uncertainties in this game. How's Kyle McCord going to play on the road at Pitt? What's the atmosphere going to be like on a Thursday night there? How's the passing game going to look for Eli Holstein? Is he going to limit mistakes against the Syracuse secondary that's been okay? There are some questions that I have. The one thing I am almost sure of is that I think Pittsburgh should be able to run the ball here. They've done it pretty well all season long. They've been pretty consistent doing it. The Syracuse rushing defense has not been very good. And I think this is a scenario where a very good Pittsburgh offense, I think, can establish the run early at home in this game and try to lean on their defense that, while not perfect, I think could force some Syracuse mistakes. When we've seen Syracuse go a little sideways this year, it's when the passing game, when McCord gets a little bit off schedule. Trevor Pena is out for Syracuse, Andrew Lilly just pointed out, which is a significant loss. McCord has looked to him a ton, especially on third downs. He's been one of the premier targets when Syracuse is in a have-to-have-it situation offensively, and not having him is pretty significant in this game as well. I like Pittsburgh. I'm on the Panthers. I think they win. I think they cover the 6. I think this is inside 10 points. I think it's going to be a very competitive game. One thing I do really like is I like the over. 62.5 is a ton of points, but these offenses can score in bunches. They've hit a bunch of explosive plays this year on both sides. McCord in the passing game for Syracuse, when he's right, they can score a ton of points. Eli Holston's been really, really good as a freshman. You do have Desmond Reed, who's been outstanding, all-American, all-purpose type back for the Panthers. I think we're going to have a lot of points here on Thursday night. Even though 62.5 is a ton of points, short week, I get all that. I'm just going to lean over. I like the over here, and I like Pitt to cover 6. I think they win by around a touchdown, 7-8 points. Don't bet it necessarily, but I do like Pitt. That's my lean.
Couple things here. Trebor Pena has mentioned, what I've seen is that he's not certainly out. He's expected to be out. I don't know if that's official yet, but certainly expecting him not to play. He is Syracuse's leading receiver by receptions. He leads the team in receiving touchdowns. He is second on the team in receiving yards by about 3 feet. He is 1 yard behind Jackson Meeks for the team lead in receiving yards. Yeah, he one of 3 major passing targets for Kyle McCord for sure. And that's a significant loss if he is not playing in this game. Something else I wanted to mention. First of all, before I mention that, both these teams coming off a bye. By the way, neither of these teams played last week, so both should be relatively fresh from obviously we just talked about someone not playing, but from a health, a little bit there should be maybe a little extra spring in the step from both these teams, you would hope. Mike, I'm going to give you a list of teams. I want you to tell me which one of these teams has a better defense than Syracuse. Okay? Kent State.
They do not.
Cincinnati.
Probably do not.
West Virginia.
Definitely do not.
Youngstown State.
Definitely do not.
North Carolina.
Next.
Cal.
Cal's defense is pretty good.
I would go yes on Cal, right?
Yeah.
Pitt
Cal's
has played
pretty good.
Pitt has played one defense better than Syracuse this year. They scored 17 points at home against them on a Saturday afternoon, right? So, and this is the thing that I keep going back to and thinking about is like we got really hyped up about Pitt's offense. It kind of seems like they were going up against a bunch of defenses that all kind of add up to a bunch of booty cheeks, right? So that's the thing I think about. And not that I think that Syracuse's defense is like incredible, but I do think there's a pulse there. Like they're not bad. They're pretty decent. So I think they can get a couple stops here on Pittsburgh. I think this is too many points. I disagree with you. I'll take Syracuse. I'll take Syracuse to cover here. I think they at least find a way to keep it close. I give them a shot to win the game. I think that's possible. Yep. And then I see that game that they played against Cal, that Pitt played against Cal. I think Syracuse can find a way to keep this as an under as well, kind of a somewhat lower scoring, 24-20, some sort of like call it a little bit of a slog, but like that is a lot of points. And especially with, by the way things have trended this year in college football, lower possessions, like that kind of thing. I think there's a chance that this is a somewhat lower scoring game. So give me Syracuse and give me the under here. And I thought about locking up the under, but I'm not ready to do that just yet. So we might come back and do that here in a little while.
Yeah, we really disagree because this doesn't happen often where we like really, really disagree. I look at this Syracuse defense. And I think they're a lot closer to like, and I think I just mentioned. I think they're better than Carolina's defense, and Syracuse's defense is probably better than West Virginia's defense, and probably better than Cincinnati's defense. But I think they're a lot closer to West Virginia and Cincinnati's defense than they are to like Cal's defense, right? So I think that's where I probably break from you. Now, with that said, I think if you are going to take Syracuse, which you are, I think it needs to be a lower scoring game. Could Syracuse win a shootout? Yeah, they could. I think their chances of winning exponentially increase if you keep this a lower scoring game. That's my opinion. Agree. So I just think Pitt's been more consistent offensively. Pitt's just been more consistent offensively this year. And I think that could be because of opponents, like you mentioned. I think that's a fair point based on who they've played defensively, but I think also there is a bit of a track record there that we can point to with Pittsburgh as far as like we know they're going to put some points on the board, and I think a higher scoring game probably favors them in that regard.
Yeah. I had that exact same thought. Is if you like Syracuse, you probably like the under. If you like Pitt, you probably like the over here. So, and like you said, I mean, I think this is a short spread for a reason. I think this game could go any number of ways. I think both these teams, there's some variance there of what they are on a week-to-week basis. So we will see which version of each shows up Thursday night on ESPN at 7:30.
Yeah, and Syracuse can absolutely win this game, by the way. I hope I didn't come across saying that like they didn't have a chance. I hope I didn't come across that way. I think Syracuse can absolutely win this football game. I'm leaning Pitt here.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you said you'll lay 6 points with Pitt because you think they'll win by 7 or 8. Like, it's like you think they'll barely cover, basically, is what we're saying.
Yeah, it'll be close, I think.
Yep. All right, Syracuse and the under for me, Pitt and the over for Mike. Let's move on. Friday, October the 25th. 7:30 on ESPN2, the Louisville Cardinals on the road in Chestnut Hill taking on the Boston College Eagles. Louisville, a 7.5-point road favorite, totals 53.5. Louisville without Colin Lacey, that number, by the way, has not really changed. It's your second or third best receiver opting out is not really going to move a line for what that's worth. Louisville coming off that loss to Miami at home, in a big atmosphere like that, coming off the comeback win over Virginia before that. I do not like this spot for Louisville, Mike. I really don't. Going on the road on a short weeknight kind of situation. Give me Boston College, at least to cover. Louisville has not really been reliable anyways to really get margin against anybody. I think Boston College finds a way to at least keep this close. Boston College could win this game on the field. Like, that's, again, I just don't trust Louisville at this point right now.
We agree. I like Boston College plus the 7.5. BC looked bad against Virginia Tech last Thursday. There's no question about it. They looked really bad, and they got back into that game because Virginia Tech gifted them with a couple of short field touchdowns. But Parker, what's his last name? Parker Fleming posted his net success rate. Really good analytics guy. Posted his net success rate graphic where it's like, did we really get beat that bad? And Virginia Tech had the third highest net success rate in the FBS last week over Boston College. So, like, for as close as that game got in the third quarter, I think it pretty much went down by down, kind of how we reflected it in the recap. Virginia Tech kind of stopped themselves there. BC looked really, really bad. All that said, I think in this spot for Louisville, right, you're coming off of a really emotional body blow type game against Miami. Now you got to travel up to Chestnut Hill on a short week and play against a Boston College team that feels like they can play a lot better than they showed on national television last Thursday night on the road. And you're going to get a motivated Boston College team here, a Louisville team that really has to put the emotions of that loss to Miami behind them and everything that they put into that game. And now you got to go to Chestnut Hill. You are the better team, but this is not a roll your helmets out there situation. This is a BC team that, will be a little bit feisty if you give them the opportunity. Ask Virginia Tech in the third quarter last week. They will take advantage of mistakes if you give them short fields. Louisville made a lot of mistakes last week. They've been mistake prone this year. It's a big reason why they're 4-3 through 7 games versus whatever they were last year, 6-1 or 7-0 when they were rolling. They are more mistake prone this year, and it's not just Tyler Shuck. I think Shuck actually, by and large, has been pretty good. It's been a lot of fumbles, a lot of penalties, defensive breakdowns, that sort of stuff that we weren't necessarily seeing a year ago. I think BC takes advantage of that. If Castellanos plays, I know he's been banged up. It's been, a question kind of week in and week out over the last month whether or not he's going to play. If he plays in this spot, and I think the line is reflective of the expectation that he will be playing here, I like BC plus the 7.5. Don't put it past the Eagles to pull this off, Joey. It's just a feeling that I have. Louisville's the better team. All signs point to Louisville in terms of what they got on both sides of the ball. But I think just the spot on the schedule, how the games transpired last week, I think this is a really, really good spot for BC on a short week to and it's not a short week for them. They've had a full week. It's a short week for Louisville, though. And I think you could see that rear its ugly head, especially with how that Miami game went. Give me BC plus a 7.5. I really like them here. Maybe not quite enough to lock them up, but I do think they cover 7.5.
Yeah. I'm going to go to a handicap that I don't really use very much on this show, but I'm going to imply it here. Mike, can we do like a quick vibe check on Louisville? Because it feels like the vibes out of Louisville are not good at all right now. Between the Colin Lacey opt-out, between just it feels like this season is really not going according to plan, like at all. And so I just, again, that's where I wonder, can and will Jeff Brom get his team up to play this game? Boston College, I think, is coming out with like reasonably consistent energy every week. Last week, they got completely overwhelmed in Blacksburg. I think if Louisville comes out hot, like they could do that here, but I don't expect them to. I think Louisville is, I don't know. There's something off there, and I just don't trust them to go in and play their best game. I think there's a chance Donovan Ezraku could get to Tyler Shuck a couple times. Like it's a dangerous spot. And like you mentioned, I mean, if we're assuming that Thomas Castellanos is playing here, I have no reason to believe that he's not, other than like a spoof tweet I just found on Twitter from when I searched it. No, I think he's playing here. If he doesn't, okay, maybe then I'm laying 10 to 13 with Louisville. Like, that changes the game a lot.
Yeah.
But
yeah, like a full touchdown a lot.
Yeah, exactly. Certainly, though, outside of a touchdown, with the way that things have been going for Louisville, not laying that on the road in this spot. So give me the Eagles to at least cover, as you mentioned, potential underdog money line situation with the Eagles. It might be worth sprinkling. Scott, do we have what the money line would be on this game? I'll give you a second to look that up. Total's 53.5.
It's plus 230.
Oh, nice juice. I'd probably do it at plus 230.
Yeah, I'd give that a shot at outside of 2-1. I'd give that a shot.
Yeah.
53 and a hook here. Pass. I don't know. I got no feelings on that number.
We're gonna hear something about Boston College and money line sprinkles tomorrow on Cover 3. I can feel it. That's ripe. That's ripe for the taking for somebody.
There's another show later in the day tomorrow that we're gonna be hearing it on too. I feel like we're gonna see that on Winners. We'll see.
Oh God, so disgusting. Yeah, we will. That's right up SVP's alley.
Yep. All right. Boston College plus 7.5 for the both of us. Money line sprinkle potential. We will see how that goes.
Yep.
Goodness. Mike, let's move on. Saturday, October the 26th. As a reminder, as we get into these, use hashtag GoACCMOTW to submit award nominations on Twitter. Send us email links, whatever you got to do as you watch these games. It is super helpful having everyone's eyes on these games. We can't be everywhere all at once, so when you guys see things that happen, send us in some submissions for awards, and that could be the Go ACC Moment of the Week. It could be the Brian Van Gorder Memorial You Tried Award. Any of our awards, we would appreciate that. That helps make the Saturday night show that much better. So appreciate the folks that do that. Mike, do we need to talk about the Techmo Bowl?
It's time.
It is time. At noon on the ACC network, my Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets in Virginia Tech, in Blacksburg, taking on your Virginia Tech Hokies. Hokies a 10.5 point home favorite here. Total is 51.5. Mike, this is a game that we were robbed of last year, thanks to ACC scheduling nonsense. So we haven't gotten to do this in a couple of years. This is otherwise, we missed 2020 as well, but otherwise this has been a long-standing rivalry basically since Virginia Tech joined the ACC back in 2004, I believe. We played basically every year other than those two of the last four. To me, I think a lot of this game hinges on Georgia Tech's injury report, because they have not yet. There was a report on Monday morning from a Virginia Tech guy saying that Haynes King was out this weekend. Brent Key quickly came out and debunked that and said that has not been a determination that's been made. And from my sources that I've seen, and I think you're familiar with a couple of my sources, Mike, they're not ruling anything out. I will say everything that I've heard since he came out of that North Carolina game is that kind of the expectation is that Haynes King is probably not playing here. And then I saw Zach Pyron get kind of banged up pretty late in that Notre Dame game last weekend. I have seen nothing that indicates he won't be playing. So as long as one of them are playing, and if Kyle Eford, Georgia Tech's middle linebacker, is playing, I think I like Georgia Tech getting the points here. Like, that is a pretty big spread, and I think they have a way of keeping this close. But if you are without both of those quarterbacks and you are without your middle linebacker again, I do not like this spot for Georgia Tech at all.
Yeah. Yep. Agree. Let's get this out of the way. We're locking up the over 51.5. Let's do that.
You better lock it up. No, you lock it up. Lock it up. Lock it up. Lock it up.
Man, this Georgia Tech defense looked bad last week.
You know why?
Looked bad. Whole tackling thing, really bad. Virginia Tech has been better with red zone defense recently. Don't give up some yards, though. They're doing a lot of this bend, but don't break stuff, which is a lot of fun until you break. So I just keep an eye on that. This game has over potential written all over it, regardless of kind of where you sit on the spread. You know, a lot of times, and we just talked about this a couple minutes ago with the Syracuse-Pittsburgh game, where it's like, oh, if you favor one team here, you lean one direction on the total. If you favor one team, you lean the other direction. Not necessarily for this game. I think it could be a close game with a lot of points. I think it could be around a 10 or an 11 point spread with a lot of points to get you to the total. I like the over here a lot, Joey. So let's get that out of the way.
Yep. I'm with you on that. I think, again, like you said, kind of regardless of how you look at it, I think both these offenses are going to be able to move the ball. I think both these offenses, there's reason to believe there might be like a defensive score in there somewhere. Like Georgia Tech has had some glitchy special teams. There could be a score there. Like this is really not a very high number for the way that these teams have a way of scoring against each other. So I'm with you. Double barrel lock, Mike. Over 51.5. Let's lock it up.
You better lock it up. You better lock it up. No, you lock it up. You lock it up. Lock it up. Lock it up.
Please.
Yeah,
Hell
pointsy.
Yeah.
Pointsy, I'm thinking.
Hey, Scott, we're going to need a breakdown from you on the double barrel locks record this year. I think we're undefeated, I believe.
Pretty good.
I'm going through a lot right now, so it's going to be a maybe.
We're actually not, and by the way, I'll debunk that. We are not undefeated on double barrel locks, because you and I both locked up Clemson 21.5 last week, and that lost.
That is true. We're actually on a losing streak, as it were.
Yeah.
So,
well, let's break it. Let's break it here. As far as this game is concerned, right? I think there are a couple things. Number one, the health of Georgia Tech is just such an important point if you're going to play this game on the spread. You mentioned the quarterback situation, which we were texting a little bit about this. I think this is a game where you'd rather have Haynes King than Zach Pyron. And I understand Zach Pyron went into Blacksburg a couple of years ago as a freshman and won. And that's getting pushed out there a lot for obvious reasons, because Pyron could be the starting quarterback in this game. The one thing I will say here, and I think a key difference between seeing Zach Pyron this Saturday versus seeing Zach Pyron 2 years ago. So there's a lot of film on Zach Pyron now. There's a lot more film. There's a lot more game. Like there's more there, right? Like Haynes King, I know played a lot last year, but you at least have an idea, a better idea of what you're getting out of Zach Pyron now versus when you first saw him a couple years back. I think that's one difference there. But the other thing I'll mention, I think they're similar enough stylistically, right, that I think from a game preparation standpoint, I'm not sure you're doing a whole lot different, right? You're still going to be keying on Jamal Haynes in the running game. The run keys are going to be pretty much the same. Haynes King probably a little bit more explosive as a passer, but I don't think Pyron's a bad passer, as we saw last week against Notre Dame. He can definitely throw it. So I don't think from a stylistic standpoint, it's just like two different quarterbacks, obviously. I think you're preparing pretty much the same way. But I think if you're Georgia Tech, you're going on the road here against a comparable opponent. I think this is the spot where you'd much rather have Haynes King versus Zach Pyron versus last week when we talked about the Notre Dame game and we knew Haynes King was out, and we said that doesn't really factor in the spread all that much. It factors into the spread a little bit here, but I think it's more of like you'd just rather have him in this type of game because Virginia Tech is not Notre Dame. You're not going into this game pretty much throwing your hands up and being like, well, the only reason we think we're going to be competitive here is because that line stinks, which is basically what we came away with last week. Right. So I think from that standpoint, that's going to be interesting. I think here, the one thing I'm sure of here, or at least I think I'm sure of, Virginia Tech's running the ball really well right now, obviously. Georgia Tech has run the ball well this year, obviously with Jamal Haynes, really good. Last week, not so much. Notre Dame defense, elite. I think I trust Virginia Tech's defense a little bit more than I trust Georgia Tech's defense. right? So I think if we're going like personnel group by personnel group, Georgia Tech's defense, especially without Eford, if he doesn't play, I'm really concerned about Georgia Tech's ability in the short passing game defensively, and then the run fit stuff that we saw in the second half of that game against Notre Dame last week. That's where I'm most concerned about Georgia Tech here. The questions I have defensively about the Jackets, it's been really rocky. A lot of it's been due to injuries lately. Virginia Tech's defense is improving. They have issues of their own defending the run at times this year. They give up a lot of yards, right? But they've been better this year, a lot like Georgia Tech, year over year. They've been better at limiting explosives. So because of all that, I'm taking Georgia Tech plus the 10.5. I think Virginia Tech wins. I'm thinking this is going to be around 7 to 10 points. I'm thinking 34, the 34-24 range, right? 31-24, that sort of thing. That's why I like the over so much. I think we can easily get there, right, where each defense is able to get a handful of stops, but we're still seeing a fair amount of offense regardless of who the quarterback is for Georgia Tech. Also, if Haynes King is playing, if Eford's playing, like at full health, I think we're seeing a spread closer to like 4 or 5 points, maybe even a field goal.
Like 2-3 weeks ago, I was thinking this is inside of a touchdown, probably.
Yeah. So I wasn't shocked when the line came out. I saw Virginia Tech -9. I wasn't shocked because of Georgia Tech's injury situation, because I would have thought a month ago, even with Virginia Tech struggling, like going into the Miami game, for example, I would have thought that this was probably going to be like a field goal game in Blacksburg, because we were still trying to figure out where Georgia Tech's best win was at that time, right? Relative to who they played. That's where I'm at. I like Georgia Tech plus the 10.5, a ton of points. But also Virginia Tech, this came up on the podcast I just recorded. The last time Virginia Tech, Joe, you're not going to believe this. The last time that Virginia Tech won an ACC game by less than 17 points was the J.C. Price interim coach game in 2021 against UVA when he took over for Fuente. Virginia Tech hasn't won a ACC game by less than 17 points in almost 3 calendar years.
How is that possible?
Because they lose the other ones.
Because they lose the other ones. But
well, yeah, they're not Clemson all of a sudden. You know, like,
isn't that crazy?
Wow, that is wild.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yep. Yeah.
All right.
I mean, they only won one. Year one they went. What was it? 2-10. I guess 2-9, right?
Wait, when? What?
Virginia Tech year one under Pry, wasn't it like 2? They beat Liberty and Wofford
and Boston College, right?
In Boston College, they went 3-8. I'm sorry, they went 3-8 a few years ago. Virginia Tech. They only won one ACC game. The UVA game got canceled at the end of the year because of the shooting.
That was under Pry?
That was under Pry.
I had it in my mind this was year 2 at Pry. Is this year 3?
This is year 3.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Wow. I totally missed that. Okay. Yeah.
So.
Dang. Huh.
Yep.
That's nuts. Yeah.
So only won one ACC game.
Win. First win over Boston College, 27-10. There you go. How about that?
Oh.
Come on. Let's get nuts.
Let's get nuts.
Almost every one of his ACC wins has been by like exactly 17 points. That's
It's crazy. So they don't win any close games, as we know.
Yeah. Couple things I want to mention, and we don't have to hang on this for too much longer. You mentioned all the Zach Pyron stuff getting thrown around. He was here in 2022, I think. Yeah. Interim Brent Key had that game, and they came in and won. I want to be very clear. Like, I don't think that there's some schematic advantage to playing Zach Pyron over Haynes King. Like, I don't know that there's a whole lot that he does better than Haynes King does. I think everything is either equal or, somewhat lesser. So it's really just trying to draw comparisons and thinking back to past games, I guess, is all you're talking about there. Again, I want to just mention on the Kyle Eford thing. So Georgia Tech's defense has improved this year, but as we've said before, that's primarily in run defense. The pass defense still not great. They are not rushing the passer well at all. Coverage is predictably breaking down when they can't get to the passer.
There he is.
The thing that concerns me here is I watched that Virginia Tech Boston College game last week, and I watched Boston College's linebackers overrun things in some of these outside zones, and I saw Bayshell Tootin cut up through holes and just go run and like hit his head on the goalpost, basically, right? Like it was just daylight. And I saw Georgia Tech try to defend Notre Dame's run game last weekend, and I saw some of the same stuff. And it's stuff that we really haven't seen this year from that defense when Kyle Eford has been out there. And as I mentioned, he's got his flaws in pass coverage, and I really don't love what he does in pass coverage. But when he's out there, at least in the run game, it makes a big difference. And he is a guy that fits the run well. He tackles well. He's very much a traditional downhill middle linebacker. And I just think that makes such a big difference in this particular matchup with what Virginia Tech and Bayshell Tootin are capable of. So that's a big thing for me. And kind of like we're talking about here, a lot of this hinges on the health situation. So this is where I would almost, if I were wanting to put my own money on this, I would be waiting until like Saturday morning, maybe looking for reports on who's warming up, who's not. You know, like you got to be really sure of what exactly you're getting here, because I don't know that Georgia Tech is going to be allowing any information out any earlier than they have to on who is or is not playing. So either way, I'm gonna make an assumption on who is playing, at least one of those quarterbacks, and so I'm with you. I'll take the over. 51.5 is really not a very high number for two teams, I think, that are capable of some explosiveness on offense, and at least a Georgia Tech team that is capable of some glitchiness on special teams and on defense and some of those things. So I like the over. You do as well. We both got that locked up. We're both on Georgia Tech plus the 10.5, but I'm with you. I will be surprised if Georgia Tech can win this game, unless we find out that everyone in question is healthy and playing. I'll be surprised if they win otherwise.
With you.
All right. Mike, do you need something to wear to this game?
You know what? I do. Oh shoot. You know what?
You got something to wear to this game.
Damn. Well, anyway, it's fine. I do. I have a couple articles of clothing from a few different sponsors.
That's right, because you went to section103.com, the internet's premier place for all things wonderful Georgia Tech apparel. They got t-shirts, they got sweatshirts, they got hoodies, things for men, women, children, babies, something for the whole family, every Georgia Tech fan in your life. They need something from section103.com. Use promo code GOACC for 10% off your first order. I'm expecting kind of maybe a somewhat cooler day in Blacksburg. I don't know exactly what the weather will be, but that time of year, probably in the 50s or the 60s on Saturday, I would guess.
I can tell you in 2 seconds.
Yeah. Well, either way, you're probably going to be wanting to wear one of these sweet coach hoodies.
66 degrees. 66 degrees and sunny Saturday.
Slight breeze. Perfect day for a hoodie. This coach hoodie, super soft, looks fantastic. Go get it all, section103.com. Use promo code GOACC for 10% off your first order. Once again, they got NIL shirts for both of the possible starting quarterbacks, Eric Singleton Jr. They got things for the basketball team, volleyball team, baseball team. All good things from section103.com. One last time, use promo code GOACC for 10% off your first order. It's section103.com. Shout out to Steven and the gang. Could see Steven might be in Blacksburg for this game. So if you see him, give him a shout.
I could do one of those halvesy shirts like Brady Quinn's sister in the Fiesta Bowl like 15 years ago. Could do the Bobby Dodd Stadium is my happy place.
No, God! No, God, please, no! No!
Any Virginia Tech shirt I own. Thank you, Scott, for that sound. Man, shout out Steven.
I like it. I like
Section 103. Yep.
Hell yeah. All right, let's move on, Mike. Noon on the CW. Gosh. The North Carolina Tar Heels on the road in Charlottesville taking on the Virginia Cavaliers. Virginia, a 4-point home favorite, totals 59.5. Mike, North Carolina coming off a bye week. They've lost 4 in a row. They are going in and just a short underdog against the Virginia Cavaliers. Is this the week that North Carolina gets off the schneid, gets on the board in ACC play?
I got a sick one for you.
Uh-oh.
Carolina +4. Let's lock it up.
Oh, God.
You better lock it up. No, you lock it up. You lock it up. Lock it up. Lock it up.
Please.
It's disgusting. I hate everything about it, but I also love it. I love it at the exact same time. Joey, I don't care. I'm a sicko. Yes, it's perfect time for that sound. This is my grossest pick of the year by far. We have a few different items here. Number 1, it's a CW game. Number 2, it is a nooner on the CW. Perhaps more importantly, Carolina's losing a lot of close games. A lot of close games. They're not losing a ton of games outside of a touchdown. That Pittsburgh game is I'm looking at, as far as ACC games are concerned, the only one they've lost outside of a touchdown. They lost that game by 10. They played Georgia Tech to a 7-point game at home. They went on the road. They were up 3 scores against Duke and obviously lost that game by a point. We're laying 4 with Virginia. Virginia has looked like the better team, right? We feel pretty good about how things have gone this year for UVA with Calandria. It's a gotta-have-it game for UVA for bowl eligibility. But, man, I look at this Carolina rushing attack, Amari and Hampton going up against a Virginia rush defense that's had some issues this year. Jacoby Criswell has not been that bad. He's been taking care of the football for the most part. He's filled in. He's looked okay. UVA's offense, little up and down, right? A Carolina defense that hasn't been great. But, Joey, we got a really high total here. We got 59.5. There's going to be a lot of points. I've seen nothing out of North Carolina to indicate that they can't keep up in a high-scoring game. Yep. Man, I look at this total. I look at the short spread. I look at how Carolina can run the football here, all coupled with the fact it's a CW underdog game.
Shout out Lee Nobody, our guy.
Shout out Lee. I think Carolina gets on the board here, Joey, in ACC play. I think they win this game outright in Charlottesville.
Tar Heels on the field.
Tar Heels on the field in Charlottesville. A disgusting pick. A disgusting pick. Maybe my grossest pick of the year. But I talked about how this is a have-to-have-it game for UVA for bowl eligibility because of their schedule. It's a gotta-have-it game for Carolina, too. I like the Heels outright. Carolina +4.
I understand where you're coming from, Mike, and I see it. And you said that you're locking up Carolina here, and my immediate visceral response was couldn't be me, and it couldn't. I told you coming into the year, I didn't think North Carolina is going to be any good, and it's funny looking back on it this week and thinking about it. How lucky is North Carolina that Minnesota missed that field goal at the very end of the game? They could be 2-5 right now, staring down the barrel of not making a bowl game. They got lucky to win that game, honestly. I would be a quitter at this point if I were to quit fading North Carolina.
You would be.
And as you note, Mike, they have been in some really close games. Some of them because they have allowed them to be close games. And most of them that they have just found ways to lose, right? Like you come in and you tie that game at home with less than a minute left against Georgia Tech, and then you just give up 69 yards through the heart of the South or whatever to Jamal
Nice.
Haynes with
Yep.
15 seconds left. Ridiculous. You had a 20-point lead in a rivalry game against Duke, and you lost. I mean, this is a team that finds ways to lose. And I really don't like using this handicapping metric, but I'm going to use it in this particular case, Mike. Can we do a quick vibe check on North Carolina? Because, I mean, it's almost basketball season, okay? And this is just, again, this is not going according to plan, like, at all. I cannot be trusting Carolina to – they haven't – it doesn't seem like they've quit, but everyone's just
I was going to
waiting.
ask you that. Have you sensed any quit? Because I have not.
I have not. Chase Sigmund brings up teams should quit on Mac. I don't disagree.
Agree with that. Agree with that. Yeah, agree.
And I do think that the national narrative is getting to the point of like, we can't keep doing this Mac Brown thing forever because the results aren't very good. And the fact that we can keep having this conversation means this isn't going to go on forever and it's going to just probably get worse. So Carolina's hand is going to be forced here at some point. No, give me Virginia. Lay the 4, and you got to prove that you can do it, North Carolina. And I haven't seen you prove that you can do that just yet. So lay the 4 with the home team. Total's 59.5. I could see an over here. I don't think Carolina's playing a whole lot of low-scoring games here. So
CW underdogs. Since games started being put on the CW, are 18-9 against the spread, buddy.
yes, they are.
You know what we call that, Joey?
Sounds like a trend.
That's a trend. That's a trend. That's profitable. That's some retire your family stuff.
I was gonna say
is what that is. You're hitting 2/3 of your bets, Joey, on CW underdogs.
I would be very curious to see the 2023 versus 2024 breakdown of that number, because I think it was a lot more reliable last year than it has been this year. And this year it also started including like rando Pac-12 games. So
that's true. You know who could get us some data on that though?
I bet that's our guy Lead Nobody.
That is our guy Lead Nobody.
Scott?
Well,
put that in the queue.
Got a lot on his plate. Yeah, big.
I'm
big
handling a lot right now.
That you are. You do have a sweet new soundboard for us though, which is cool.
Yes, he does.
Right, the palm of your hand, essentially.
That's right, literally. All right, Carolina plus the 4 locked up for Mike. Virginia minus the 4 for me. Did we both? I didn't really take a side on the total. That's a pretty high number.
I'm good on the total. I'm not going to touch that. But the Pac-12 teams have hurt the trend per Lee Nobody on the CW underdogs. Good thing this is not a Pac-12 game.
Yeah, fair enough.
So far, could be soon.
Wow.
But the next game is.
Speaking of Pac-12 games, 3:30 on the ACC Network, the Wake Forest Steamin' Deeks on the road in Palo Alto taking on the Stanford Cardinal. Wake. Hang on.
Man. Struggle. Wake is a 3-point favorite. Oh, play it again, Scott?
Producer's pick of the week, Stanford +3. To save Joey from coughing.
Couldn't be me.
Save Joey from coughing and this disgusting line. Wake sucks. Stanford's not much better. They have to play a noon body clock game for Wake. Give me Stanford +3. You know why? Because I don't even know why they're not favored to begin with. Like, what reason does Wake Forest get 3 points? It doesn't make any sense. Stanford +3. Book it.
I don't know.
For as bad as Wake Forest has been, they are a road favorite going across the country, which tells you how bad Stanford has been. Like, I texted you guys earlier. Like, you mean I got to take either road favorite Wake Forest or Stanford in this game? Gross. Absolutely not.
Man, I thought my Carolina pick was gross. Oh, man. We're going back to back with just disgusting locks on this podcast here tonight. I don't care.
Man.
I'm a sicko. That's right. I don't care. I'm a sicko. Scott, I think I'm joining you. I think I agree.
Hell yeah. I'll join the
I think
party,
I
baby.
agree.
The producer's boat of the week.
The question for me with this game is how Stanford's defense, which has been pretty decent this year against the run, how it reacts to the Wake Forest slow mesh offense. That's going to be interesting to watch. As far as the offenses are concerned, they're pretty mid. This total seems high to me.
It does.
I'm probably going with the under in this game with some confidence. Probably not enough to lock it up, but that seems like a lot of points. Stanford's been shuffling quarterbacks. Ashton Daniels has not been 100% for quite some time. Bachmeier's been fine for Wake, and Wake Forest defense is bad. So, like, there's some elements there where I can understand and reason my way into an over game. But I have not seen enough out of these two offenses consistently to think that they are going to get maybe into the high 20s from a point standpoint. I mean, implied score is 28 to 25 ish.
Yeah.
That gives you a 53, right? So, I don't know, man. I don't know. I think if we're going to do the team total under game, I've already handed out this pick, but Stanford team total under, this is the second time I've gone back to that well. Yeah, under 25, I could see. And if I'm picking Stanford plus the 3, you bet your ass I like the Wake Forest team total under as well here. This seems like a ton of points, man. I'm going to go with the under. I may bet this weekend. This seems high.
I actually think this is very comparable to the Pitt-Syracuse game, where if you like one side, you like the over. If you like one side, you like the under. My gut says take Stanford here. I don't know that I can. I still am trying to believe in my Steam and Deeks. Like, I think I'm going to lay the points with Wake, but I think the game that...
What an idiot!
Somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to do it. Like, we can't abandon our Steam and Deeks. They've been with us since day one, Mike. By the way, imagine day one telling us that we would do this podcast for like less than 10 years and we'd be playing a conference game between Wake and Stanford in the ACC. Love it. I think Wake's offense is still decent. I think Wake's offense is the best thing in this game. I think. Second best thing, probably Stanford's defense.
Probably.
But I think Wake's offense is the best thing in this game. Again, they're kind of backs against the wall. They still have a shot at bowl eligibility. Stanford banged up, trying to figure it out, still having a tough year. They're a home dog, and I understand that pick 100%. I'm just not ready to really buy in on Stanford. So I need to see it again if they're going to find a way to win this game. So I'm just going to lay a short number with Wake Forest here on the road. And if you like Wake, I would lean over. But, again, that is a lot of points for a game where, regardless of how bad Wake's defense might be, Stanford still might not be scoring very many points.
Yeah.
Way. So,
yeah, you got to rely on Stanford's offense to actually reliably move it.
Yep. Yeah, so I'll stay off the total here. But Wake, minus the 3 for me, Stanford and the under for Mike, and Stanford plus 3 for Scott for the producer's pick of the week. There you go. 4 o'clock, ESPN, another West Coast special. The Cal Golden Bears at home taking on the Oregon State Beavers. Cal, a 10-point home favorite. Total's 49.5. Mike, before I start coughing, give me Oregon State. Cal is not running away from this game. It has not run away from anyone in a while. Why are we laying double digits with the Bears, a team that cannot find a way to win games at all right now? Oregon State, reasonably feisty. Give me the Beavers, at least to keep this close. For Cal's sake, I hope they find a way to at least win this game.
I'm with you. Give me Oregon State. But first of all, two longtime ACC rivals here.
Right.
They've been a part of this conference for so long.
You know, if this was like the night before Christmas, this is the ghost of ACC present versus the ghost of ACC future, right? Like,
I did not think we would be getting a ACC Pac-12 non-con game this year, where the Pac-12 was still going to be a viable conference at this point in the season, but they're alive.
I think that's
They're
actually
alive.
a Christmas Carol. I think I got the movie wrong, but anyways, who cares?
It does not matter. Oregon State plus the 10. Oregon State. Did they beat They played Nevada last week, right? Did they win that
UNLV?
game?
I thought it was UNLV.
They lost to UNLV and they lost to
maybe
Nevada
UNLV.
back-to-back weeks.
Okay.
They lost both those games.
All right, I wasn't that far off. Okay.
Both one-score games.
Yeah. Two really tough games. Yeah, two tough games back to back, right? And now you got to play Cal. Cal, I don't trust Cal, man. They've lost 4 games by 9 total points. They were a double-digit dog last week. Lost outright on the field to a bad NC State team. Rough, man. I don't trust Cal double digits right now. I don't think I can with their offense. There's no reason to think that Oregon State can't stay within 10. Beavers here with some confidence. I don't think Cal is going to be able to pull away here. Yeah, Oregon State with some confidence. Might be betting this one too.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Under for me. Under game. Also, under game. It's a 40. Yep. It's high 40s. Could it go over? Yeah. Lean is under.
Yeah. Total implied here is like 30-20. I think I'm with you. Under for me as well. So Oregon State plus the 10 and under 49.5 for the both of us. A little bit of cleanup duty here, Mike. Last couple, we'll go quickly here. 7 o'clock, ESPN. Florida State on the road at number 6 Miami. Miami's a 21-point home favorite in this game. Total's 54.5 in a an annual blowout nothing game that we play these days.
Yeah.
Lamb with Miami, Mike.
Yeah.
I understand. Cam has come on this podcast and year over year told us this game is different. This year, this game is not different. Like, Florida State has nothing. And the only way that was a 16-point game against Clemson was because Clemson just kept kicking field goals in the red zone. Like, they're not doing that this week. Miami's going to score. They're going to try to run it up. Give me Miami. And honestly, 54.5, Miami's going to probably try to get most of the way there by themselves. So let's take the over. Hell, let's lock that up. Over 54.5. Lock it up.
You better lock it up. No, you lock it up. You lock it up. Lock it up. Lock it up.
Please.
Wow.
I think 45-10 is the sweatiest that number gets.
Yeah. I'm not doing the Florida State thing anymore. I bet that I bet them with my money last week that they would cover against Duke.
What?
They did not.
What an idiot!
Bet the under. So that was 1 for 1. But yeah, we're done. We're done betting on Florida State. Give me Miami. I'm not as confident about the total because I don't know how much Florida State's going to score here. 38-10 ish.
Yeah. I will say, if I'm remembering right, Miami through 7 games, the over is at least 6-1. Like, almost every single game has gone over the total for Miami this year. Like, and again, they've got like top 5 offense in the country and a very glitchy defense that will give up some points to just about anybody. So, yeah. I mean, you gave up 38 to Cal. Like, that takes some work. So
it does. That's true.
You know, if you wanted to take an over, you could probably do that and feel okay about it, even with Florida State on the other side.
Good comment here from Will Secor. threw away all that money I got for winning the Georgia Tech over 4.5 win bet. Yep, that's correct.
Mm-hmm.
That I
Yep.
did. That I did. Yeah. We're not betting Florida State anymore. Give me Miami, and no opinion on the total.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah. I again, I don't have a lot of analysis here. We've said everything we can say about Florida State, and Miami has been a freight train from hell offense. So
Yeah.
get in the way of that train at your own risk.
For all the Miami losses in this podcast history, of which there have been many, this would be the funniest one by far.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the absolute funniest one would be this one. So for the content, Florida State money line would be hysterical.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Canes here.
Would this be funnier than last year's Miami loss to Georgia Tech?
8-1 on the money line. 8-1.
8-1 on the money line. Yes, this would be even more improbable than the Mario Cristobal didn't kneel it game. Yes, this would be, I think, funnier.
Yeah. In a rivalry spot, that would be great. Anyways, all right, Miami for the both of us, over 54.5 locked up on my end. Last one here, Mike, 8 o'clock, ACC Network, the number 22 SMU Mustangs on the road in Durham, taking on the Duke Blue Devils. SMU an 11.5 point road favorite. Total's only 48.5. As we mentioned before, RJ Maryland done for the year. He won't play in this game. SMU has looked good, has been good, but they are on the road here. And that means if they're favored, what does that make Duke, Mike?
That is the Home Field Apparel Home Dog of the Week. Use promo code GOACC24 at checkout at homefieldapparel.com. 15% off your first order. Really comfortable shirts. They got hats. They got coaches' jackets, which I got
Mike,
mine
didn't you
this
just
afternoon.
get yours?
I
Where is
did
it?
This afternoon. I know. That's why I was really mad at myself during the Georgia Tech segment earlier.
You have legs.
really
Go get it.
Frustrated? Please hold.
They got bomber jackets, all sorts of vintage, great-looking apparel. It's comfortable. It's high quality, officially licensed. We love all of our home field apparel stuff. They've got something for every ACC school. Asterisk. There's only one. I think,
Stanford.
missing.
Still Stanford.
Yeah, shout out to Stanford. But they do have Oregon State, I believe, who's a future ACC school, as discussed. What do we got? We got Mike coming in right now with what looks like a maroon jacket.
And it's
What
the
do we got
VT
here, Mike? It looks
coach's
maroon
jacket.
and orange.
You muted
And you're
yourself,
muted.
Michael.
Yep.
There
This
you
is
go.
why they pay us the big bucks. Here we are.
Look at
Look
that.
at that.
Look at that, huh?
Oh, that's gorgeous. You wear that to the game on Saturday for sure.
We got this on the back.
That's gorgeous.
Lovely. I
High
think they have
quality?
those for most schools. Yeah.
They do. They do. So, shout at home field.
New stuff coming out all the time. Use promo code GOACC24 at checkout. Again, homefieldapparel.com. That'll get you 15% off your first order. Make sure you use the link in the description down below. That would really help us as well to help them know that you came from watching our show. We would appreciate that.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Great job, guys. We got home on that one with
We
the
did.
jacket I wanted to show on this podcast. We got home.
Made it happen. Mike, I hate this pick. Give me Duke at home plus the 11.5.
So dumb. SMU.
It's dumb. SMU's
It's
offense
dumb.
has been
So
really
dumb.
good. Give me the home dog. Duke has been good at like muddying up
Joey.
games.
Joey.
What?
You took Duke as a home dog here, but not Stanford? That doesn't make any sense.
Scott, when Virginia Tech was in Palo Alto like 2-3 weeks ago, did you watch Stanford play?
I was very drunk because I just left the ALDS game 1, but yes.
That question I ask about Florida State half the time of like what do they do in practice? I start wondering the same thing sometimes watching Stanford play.
All right,
I
fine.
can't
Back to Duke.
I can't do it with Stanford. Duke, it's clear what they do in practice. Sometimes they're just not very good at it, but especially on the offensive side. But I think Duke can find a way with their defense to muddy this game up and keep it close. I think they're going to make SMU work for it. You give me a number outside of 11. Like, do I think Duke can keep this to 21-10 or something like that? Like, yeah, I'll take a shot on that. So give me Duke and all those points. And if I'm doing that, I'm probably on the under 48.5. That number is too high if I think that Duke is covering. So give me the under as well.
Question for you. How much better is Duke's offense than, say, Stanford or Florida State?
So if those are, let's see, those are probably the two worst offenses in the conference. Is that a crazy thing to say?
With Cal, probably.
I was going to put Duke and Cal in the next like tier above that. Like, not particularly good, but they can do things from time to time, more so than Florida State and Stanford. So yeah,
Point
Duke
being,
probably bottom 4 or 5 offense in the conference.
Point being, SMU gave up 16 points to Florida State. It gave up 10 points on the road at Stanford last Saturday in a game they won by 30 points. That's all relevant because I'm not sure Duke's going to score a lot here, right? Even if their defense does muddy it up, which is why I think this is like 27-10.
Yeah, that's fair.
Or like 27-14, and we're getting home on the under. In fact, I like the under so much that we're going to go ahead and lock that up.
Oh, yeah.
You better lock it up. No, you lock it up. You lock it up. Lock it up. Lock it up.
Please.
I like the under for a couple different reasons. Number one, SMU is playing their first game without their leading receiver, RJ Maryland. Number two, Duke's offense just is not very good. And I think SMU's defense is good enough to hold Duke's offense down here. I like the under here. This is one of my favorite picks of the week.
Yeah, I think so.
That's it.
Double barrel again. Under 48.5. Locked it up.
Let's go.
You better lock it up. You better lock it up. No, you lock it up. You lock it up. Lock it up. Lock it up.
Please.
Love it,
Two
Joey.
double barrel locks. By the way, just want to throw this out there too. SMU, as we said, played at Stanford last weekend. Flying back to Dallas, now flying to Durham. So we're in a way kind of doing the cross country road trip on back-to-back weekends. It's a lot of travel. So that can kind of slow your offense down a little bit. That could maybe open up the door for a couple windows for Duke to do something. So I feel okay with that pick. It sounds ridiculous. I don't like it. It's not comfortable, but I'm confident enough, so we will stick with that. But yeah, under 48.5 locked up for the both of us. I've got Duke plus the 11.5. You've got SMU minus the 11.5. Mike, I think that's all I've got on week 9 games. Anything else we're working on getting out of here? Oh no!
Hit the sound, Scott. Oh yeah.
3:30 ESPN Plus. The Bowling Green Falcons on the road in Toledo, taking on the Rockets. That's the Rock. Yeah. Toledo's a 2.5-point favorite. Totals 49.5. Toledo.
No. I mean, I need this. Principal bet. I have the win total over 6.5 for Bowling Green.
Yeah.
Out of principle, I really,
once
again, it's a gotta have it game for me. So I cannot, in my right mind, bet on Bowling Green to lose this game. Bet on Toledo, especially when Western Michigan is still on the schedule out there for Bowling Green in a game I'm not feeling particularly good about. I need this one really bad. Need it.
I have a question. I have a question about this matchup and this rivalry. I was browsing the web today, aka I was looking at Twitter when I should have been working, and I saw a video that says the rocket that Toledo has outside their stadium points south towards Bowling Green at the exact angle that if it were launched, it would land inside their stadium. And if that is actually true, that's ultimate petty, and I love it.
That's right.
That is 100% true.
Here's the details. Toledo has a decommissioned cruise missile pointed at Bowling Green's 50-yard line.
Perfect.
That is the subtle, petty rivalry nonsense that this sport needs. I love
That is the perfect, like, if an alien came down to Earth and you had to explain college football to them, you lead with that. You know, there's always something that you lead with. This is what you lead with. This is the appetizer for the main course. The main course is a 3:30 ESPN Plus game between a really bad Bowling Green team and a really bad Toledo team out of the MAC.
Is this the last week before MACtion?
It is.
Oh, yes. I love it.
We get
so
it
they're going to take 10 days off or something, then play on a Tuesday?
A week from Tuesday. Yep.
Soon these previews will be happening during Bowling Green games.
Yeah, live stream.
That time of year. And you'll get to see me sweating out my win total bet in real time. That'll be fun.
All right. Toledo for me.
Should I bet this game?
Look,
should I just like chase my bad win total bet?
You could hedge.
Or I could hedge. Or they could just simply both lose. That would be fun. I see
you don't have a problem with your wallet, Mike, because you're willing to piss away money like that.
I mean, I just called my shot with the Carolina UVA game a few minutes ago, right? That's rich. Scott, you know what? That's rich coming from the producer's pick of the week. Stanford +3 against Wake Forest and Palo Alto. Disgusting. I don't care.
Chase.
I'm a sicko.
Chase Sigmund.
Call the hotline.
Green. Call the hotline.
Call the hotline. That's a call the hotline special.
Alexis Solaris. Mike needs an intervention.
I'm gonna get the clip from Hotline Bling on this soundboard by the reaction show. So when you guys say call the hotline, that's what's gonna drop.
Yes.
Oh man. All right. Gosh. All right. Now I think that's all I've got on week 9. Anything else before we get out of here?
Yeah, one more thing. Not only is the rocket pointed at the 50-yard line, it's actually angled as such that it would account for the rotation of Earth if it was launched, so the nose of the rocket leads the aim point.
I'm here for it.
This is one of the sickest things I've ever heard in a rivalry.
That satisfies my $160,000 education. So I love it.
I was gonna say.
So petty, they brought math into it from Wilson.
Aerospace engineer Scott approves of everything going on here. I appreciate it. Well done. All right, Mike. You want to review some locks?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. We both have over 51.5 in the Techmo Bowl. We both have under 48.5 in SMU and Duke. You have North Carolina plus the 4 against Virginia. I have over 54.5 in Florida State and Miami. So it's 3 totals for me, 2 totals, and 1 spread for you. Totals have not been a hot button picking thing for us this year. So what could possibly go wrong?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it'll be fine.
It probably won't be. I mean, we have 2 double barrels. I mean, it probably won't be. This would be the week that we lose all 3 of our bets.
That's right. So tail us, if you will. Fade us, if you will. I'm sure one of those will make you some money. But we'll have to see which one.
We're 20-14 combined on locks this year. So, I mean, fade us at your own risk. That's
true. Very true. Very true. All right. Let's work on getting out of here before I cough up a lung. We are going to get out of here. We're going to go watch some games. Come back. Join us probably Saturday night. Live recap, youtube.com/@the-ACC Football Podcast. We'll be talking about these games, talking about the day that was. Come join us in the chat. Again, hit the subscribe button on YouTube, hit the bell icon. You'll find out when we're going to go live. We'll have a recap of the Techmo Bowl, along with all the other action we have from the weekend of ACC games. Come find us on Twitter @FTRSJoey, @Mike McDaniel, SI, @Severus_Snipes, @BC Podcast ACC. Use hashtag GoACCMOTW to submit your award nominations as you watch these games. We would really appreciate that and your participation in the recap show. You can send us an email, basketballconferencepodcast@gmail.com.
Nailed it.
Thank you. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, any other podcast place. You go find your podcast, go find us there. Hit that subscribe button. We would appreciate that as well. Mike, where else are we on the social medias?
Facebook.com/basketball conference rate review. Find most of our podcasts there. Shout out to everybody subscribing on YouTube. Please continue to do so.
Absolutely. Appreciate the folks for doing that. Scott, did I forget anything? Anything else?
Nope. Shout out the 3 people that subbed during the show tonight. So now we only technically two and a third to meet our average to get to 500 by November 1st.
Bringing it full circle. Appreciate the folks hitting the subscribe button. I would love to have you back sometime soon on one of these preview shows or recap shows. Wednesdays and Saturdays usually. So, in any case. Mike, anything else?
We can account for the third of a person with basically like our Pac-12 fans that have come in to join us this year in the ACC. We're talking like Stanford and Cal.
There you go.
It's a little more.
As we always knew we would be.
Right. That's right.
Fair enough. You want to... Oh, God.
We are done. We'll go watch some games.
You want to come back and recap them?
We'll be back Saturday. We'll see you Saturday night.
See you Saturday night. For Mr. Mike McDaniel, Mr. Producer Scott, I am Joey Weaver. Thank you guys so much for listening. Enjoy the games. We will talk to you again very, very soon. Until then, go ACC.